شفيع المذنبين راحة للعاشقين والمراد المشتاقين شمس العارفين والسراج السالكين نبيه مصباح والعلم صاحب الجود والكرم والله عاصمه وجبرائيل خادمه والبراق مركبه سدرة المنتهى مقامه كعب قوسين محبوب رب المشرقين والمغربين جد الحسن والحسين مولانا ومولاي الثقلين أبا القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام على جميع أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المنتخبين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم منكر فزائهم غاصب حقوقهم ومراتبهم ومنزلتهم ومقامهم من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في قرآنه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين قوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على We've been looking over the past few days at how Islam takes care of our feelings, how it takes care of our emotions, how it takes care of our psychological. When we start to feel down, how does Islam tell us to respond? When we're feeling good, how does Islam tell us to keep that feeling up? How does Islam help us to maintain that feeling? Today, I won't do a recap too much because we don't have a lot of time and we've got a lot to cover. Today what we're talking about is how we look at ourselves. We're talking about self-esteem. And the issue with self-esteem is if our self-esteem begins to drop, if our self-esteem starts to come to a point where we're struggling with how we see ourselves and how we view ourselves, it can lead to a number of other issues. It can lead to a lot of other problems. So what is this self-esteem? What is this thing we're talking about? We hear the words a lot, but what do they actually mean? Your self-esteem is how you view yourself, your own sense of worth, where you value yourself from 0 to 10. How valuable are you? When we look at our self-esteem, when we look at how we view ourselves, it's important to remember that everybody has days where they have good self-esteem, everybody has days where they have low self-esteem. We have days where we see ourselves and we think we're really doing well. When I see myself and I think I'm really doing good in life, I'm happy with who I am. And we have other days where we look at ourselves and we start to wonder, what am I doing with myself? What is my worth? What am I really doing here? What's my value here? We have days where we have good days and we have bad days. We have moments where we feel good, we have moments where we feel bad. But the self-esteem we're talking about today, the way we're talking about how we view ourselves, is in the long run. If over a prolonged period of time, I start to see myself negatively, I start to think that I'm not worth a lot, I'm not important, I don't matter. This is the kind of low self-esteem we're talking about. When you get stuck in this rut of thinking negatively about yourself. This is what our self-esteem is. It's our sense of value. Who I am, what I give to society, what I give out there, what my worth is. And there's two things to understand when we're looking at our self-esteem. When we look at our sense of value, there's two ways of looking at my sense of value. There's how I value me, and then there's how other people value me. How other people think of me. What you guys will think of me, what I'll think of you guys. This is external approval. This is how other people view me. How I view myself is my self-esteem, my internal approval. Am I happy with who I am? So how do we measure this? How do we look at whether our self-esteem is high or whether it's low? When we look at our self-esteem, or we look at how we view ourselves, if we want to know whether we're thinking of ourselves in a positive light or a negative light, because like we said before, the mind is a very tricky thing. Your self-esteem could be low, but you trick yourself into thinking that you value yourself a lot. Or your self-esteem could be very high, and you still find yourself thinking that you don't value yourself, that you're not important. How is this possible? When we look at the tricks the mind plays on us, the way the mind tells us to think about ourselves, it can sometimes be different from what we actually do think about ourselves, what we genuinely feel about ourselves. You see, our thoughts, they're words. Our thoughts is just me talking to myself. And sometimes I can tell myself a lie. Sometimes I can tell myself something that isn't necessarily true. So how can I genuinely see how I view myself? How can I really look at and really understand what I think of myself? See, there's times where, before I go out, I worry to myself. What will this person think of me? What will that person think of me? If I act like this, then that friend of mine might react in this way. If I act like that, then that person might react in that way. Now, when we find ourselves trying to change who we are, when we find ourselves trying to be somebody different, hide something about ourselves, at that point, we can say that we might not value who we are. We might not be able to see how great we really are, how great I truly am. If I find myself when I go out, I try to be somebody else. See, we all have a personality. We all have our role in society. When we go out with our friends, each person's different. When we go out with different people, we act in different ways. So for instance, Kashre. When we were younger, Kashre was always, he was a smart guy, but he was always a little bit more sensible than the rest of us. We'd be out here wrestling and fighting and doing all of that. Kashre would still wrestle and fight, but he never managed to hurt anyone. Not because he didn't want, not because he wasn't as strong as us, no, but he was smart. The way he used to play wasn't as reckless as the way we used to play. Kashre was a little bit more sensible. So was Uwais. I remember when we all used to play, we all used to mess about. Uwais was still a little bit more sensible. Why? Because he knew that he'd get in more trouble. He'd get in more trouble than the rest of us. Now these guys were the sensible ones. I like to think I was as well. Some of the other guys, they weren't so much. Shudder at the back. When he used to play, when he used to enjoy himself, when we used to play fight, wrestle, Shudder wouldn't hold back. Shudder was the guy who was always out there. When we were sitting together, you could always hear his voice. You could always hear him talking. Uwais, Kashre, not always so much. They weren't the loud types. They weren't the guys who were always the center of attention, who were always the ones making jokes. But that's their personality. That's who they are. See, Shudder, he was the kind of guy, everybody heard him. Everybody knew who he was. Everybody listened to him. When he walked into a room, he was the center of attention. We would laugh and we would joke. Shudder would tell a joke and we would all laugh. That was his personality. Now see, when you go out, sometimes you find yourself being the center of attention. You find yourself being that guy, the bubbly guy in the middle who tells a joke and everybody laughs. When that guy's serious, everybody else is serious, everybody else listens. But then sometimes you have other people. You also have the guys who are quiet. They don't talk so much. They sink back into the shadows. When the other guy tells a joke, they'll laugh, but you won't hear them telling so many jokes. This is the different people we are. It's what shapes us, it's what makes us. Now when we look at a group of people, it's very often very easy to tell who's comfortable being themselves, who's happy being that confident, bubbly guy, and who's happy being that quiet guy, who's happy being the guy who doesn't talk so much, who doesn't make so many jokes. And the thing is, when you can see who's trying very hard to be somebody they're not, you can kind of understand that that person has a reason for it. If you're constantly trying to be somebody you're not, if you're the guy who's normally quiet, who doesn't tell so many jokes, but you're trying very hard to be the guy who's the center of attention, you're trying very hard to be that guy, even though it doesn't feel right, even though it's not what comes naturally to you, it might be a point to remind yourself, look back at yourself and think, is this who I really am? Is this the best version of me? Now you see, if you want to understand this point of us being who we are, making us the best version of ourselves, when we say that being who you are is the best person you can be, what does that mean? So again, like I always do, I'll go back to football. The North London derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham. Every saw Aubameyang play out wide on the left. He's a striker, he plays through the middle. When he plays through the middle, he plays his best football. Why? Because naturally, all his talents are towards playing through the middle, are towards playing as a central striker. He's great on the wing, he's great on the left-hand side, but when he plays through the centre, he's much better. When he plays through the centre, like we saw, immediately he got a goal. When you play as the person you are, in this game of life, when you stick to who you are, that's when you become the best person you can be. Because the attributes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, the qualities He gives us, He gives them to us according to who we are, according to how we can use them. This is how we measure how we see our self-worth. Whether we find ourselves trying to change ourselves for other people, or whether we're happy being who we are, whether we're confident in ourselves. And when we go out and we constantly worry about what other people will think. And as I mentioned, this is something we have to realize. When I'm thinking about what other people will think, there's two kinds of ways to do this. There's one which is showing the best version of me, and there's one which is showing a different version of me, a false version of me. Of course, we have to show the best version of ourselves at all times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is known as Satarun or you, the hider of defects. Anything that's bad within us, any mistakes we've made, or anything that isn't quite good about us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hides that for us. So we shouldn't go out there and show that to everybody. We show everybody our best self. But at the end of the day, it should still be me. It should still be myself. No matter who that may be. No matter how I may be. This is the measure of our self-esteem. This is how we measure and understand whether we really do feel confident within ourselves. Whether we're happy with ourselves or whether we're not. And now we go to look at some of the reasons why we might have low self-esteem. Trying to understand why our self-esteem might drop. Why we might sometimes not feel so good about ourselves. There's obvious things. For instance, if we go to school, if we experience bullying, people make a lot of fun of us, that can lead to low self-esteem. These kind of things we understand and we know. And with that comes one very important one. It is obvious, but it's one that also needs to be looked at. Is our physical appearance. How do I look? When I go out, what do people see? Now with self-esteem and with physical appearance, there's a lot of different things that people struggle with. Somebody might struggle with weight. They might feel like they have too much weight or too little weight. Somebody might struggle with acne, for instance. As we're growing up, a lot of us go through acne. Some of us do, some of us don't. It's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with. The acne itself isn't a problem. But when we see that acne or that physical appearance of ours and we think, this isn't quite right. We think, this makes me less of a person, or it makes me lower compared to other people. That's when we have to remind ourselves of our worth, of who we are. Our physical appearance, and it factors in a lot of different things. The way we look factors a lot of different things. I have friends with severe eczema. I have friends with other, skin conditions, other issues. But see, it doesn't affect their self-esteem. Why? Because they know that the way they look, it doesn't have a problem. It doesn't change the way other people see them. And in the same way, when we look online, we look around us, there's beauty standards. We're told, what the best looking guy is, what the best looking girl looks like. And we see it a lot. It's a struggle that girls, in my experience, so girls have generally struggled with this more. Research shows that this is more of an issue for girls rather than boys. But it still affects guys as well. Our physical appearance. And it can lead you into a cycle as well. There's a guy I know. He's overweight. And he said to me one time, he said, "Zaki, I don't know what to do. People make fun of me because of my weight." And he said he doesn't so much mind it, but sometimes it hurts. Sometimes when people make fun of him because of his weight, it does hurt a little. So people make fun of me because of my weight. So I try to work out. When I work out, I sweat. When I sweat, I smell. So do I have people look at me badly because I'm overweight, or do I have people think I smell? What should I do? There's obvious solutions. There's things that we looked at, we went through, spoke to him about it. But for him, his weight became an issue for how he saw himself. It became an issue for what he thought of himself. the value that he saw in himself. His physical appearance. And again, like the beauty standards. For instance, we see a lot of makeup artists and things like that nowadays. Now, it's not a problem to see these different standards, to see these different beauty standards. For instance, to watch a makeup artist. This is more for the girls sitting behind the curtain, but if any of you guys do, it's not a problem to watch makeup artists. But if you're watching them, it's not a problem for the makeup artist doing what they're doing. It's not a problem for you watching them. But if you're watching them and thinking, I really wish I was like her, or him, I don't know if there's any guy makeup artists. I don't watch any makeup artists myself. But if you're sitting there thinking, I really wish I looked like that person, or that person's so much better than you because of how they look, that's when you step back. Remind yourself of your worth. Because I promise you, if, for instance, I don't know, for the guys, I don't know, Granit Xhaka, he's a good-looking guy. He's a good-looking footballer. I don't like him very much because he's not a very good footballer, but he's a good-looking guy. If you're standing next to Granit Xhaka, I promise you, nobody's looking at you thinking, Granit Xhaka's so much better looking than that guy. They might sit there and think that guy's probably a better footballer than him, but they don't care about how you look. To them, how you look doesn't impact their view of you. It doesn't impact how they look at you. Sure, there's some people who might look at you just based on your looks. They might look at you just based on your facial features, how strong you are, how nice your beard is, how nice your hair is. But for those people, is it really worth spending a lot of time worrying what they think, when they don't see anything past the first layer? Our skin, biologically, medically, what is it known as? It's our first layer of defense. It's the first thing that protects us from bacteria and viruses and germs and what have you. And in the same way, it's our first layer of defense when understanding who we let in, when understanding who we really value. Because if they can't see past my skin, they can't see past my looks, then what's inside will never really matter to them. Who I really am, it will never really matter to them. This is the very first. And we have quite a few, so I'll move on quickly. But this is the first impact, the first factor that can affect self-esteem that we will look at. The second one, and we use it a lot, is our social media. Now, there's nothing wrong with socials. I have Twitter, I have Instagram, I have Snap. Don't look me up, but I do. I use it as well. And there's no problem with using it. There's no problem with having it. But again, we have to look at our view. Because your self-esteem comes entirely from you. It comes from how you look at yourself. You're the one who has to build it up, and if it breaks down, you're the one who can bring it up again. You're the one whose thoughts and feelings matter. So when we're looking at our socials, when you're scrolling through Instagram, when you're scrolling through Twitter, when you're looking at people's stories on Snap, what we're really looking at is the best of their life. What we're really looking at is the best that they have to offer. Maybe not so much on Twitter, maybe not so much on Snapchat. Instagram especially. Instagram is a place where we see the best of people's lives. You know, that one holiday they went on in 3 years, that's what you're going to see on Instagram. The great picture they took once in a month, that's what you'll see on Instagram. And you have to remind yourself that behind that, there's still their struggles. They still have their high points and their low points. And you have to remind yourself that just because their picture looks this great, just because what they posted is this amazing, it doesn't have any difference to you. It doesn't have any impact on your life. See, we have different checkpoints in our life. We do it naturally. We make checkpoints. For some people, their checkpoints are their age. So for instance, they think, by the age of 20, I want to achieve this. By the age of 25, I want to achieve this. And for some people, their checkpoints are other people. They, for instance, think, if that person is at this level, then I should be at this level. If that person is doing this well in something, then I should be doing this well in something. But when we base our checkpoints, when we base these things on other people, it can stop us reaching our full potential. Why? Because when you distract yourself looking at what other people do, when you distract yourself worrying about what other people are engaged in, you start to lose focus on yourself. You start to lose sight of the fact that you have your own life to worry about. You have your own life to be getting on with. So your socials are something that you have to really take care of. You have to really look at how you're using your socials. Look at how you're on it. And another thing that research and studies have shown is that worrying too much about the reaction you get on social media, the reaction you get, how many likes you got, how many retweets you got, how many views you got. Of course, everybody likes seeing that, for instance, another thing that's been noted in research is birthday wishes. Everybody likes getting birthday wishes. If I start worrying to myself about how many I got this year, how many I got last year, how many I saw my friend get on his birthday, at that point I have to remind myself that these birthday wishes, or the likes I get on my photo, the retweets I get on my tweet, they don't define me. They don't have anything to do with who I am. It's how other people are reacting to me. It's how other people are seeing me. And it could honestly have nothing to do with that as well. It could have nothing to do with the way other people see me, or the way other people view me. We have to remind ourselves not to get too bogged down in these kind of things. Remind ourselves not to worry too much about what other people think, what other people feel. Recite aloud, salawat ala Muhammad wa Now, when we look at our self-esteem, when we look at the different things that impact it, the different factors that affect it, for each person they can be different. For each person, each impact, each factor can have a different effect. But when we look at the different times in our lives where we go through these impacts, where we go through these effects, there's some key moments for the general population, for most of us. One, for instance, is if we move house or move school, we move to a new place. For instance, a lot of you guys going from year 6 to year 7, a lot of you guys going from GCSEs to A-levels to uni, university into either working life or looking for work. These kind of big changes in life, these can be defined. Because when we go to a new place, when we go, for instance, from year 6 to year 7, what I've done is, I've got all my friends, I'm settled, I'm relaxed. And now I'm in a completely new place. What's the first thing I want to do? I want to meet new people, I want to make new friends. And if I want to make new friends, what do I need to worry about? I need to worry about how other people see me, how they view me. Now when I worry about how other people see me and view me, like we said, they're showing my best version, and then they're showing a false version, a version that isn't quite me. We have to make sure that when we go through these times, we remind ourselves what my work is, who I am, what the point of me being here is, what I contribute to other people. Because you see some of the effects, and this is one of the biggest effects, or one of the most dangerous effects of having low self-esteem, of not feeling like we're worth what we really are. One of the biggest and most dangerous effects, one of the biggest and most dangerous outcomes of having low self-esteem is that we can start to feel we're not valuable. But what is the importance of our value? Why is it important to think that I'm valuable to other people, or I'm valuable as myself? We said at the start that having low self-esteem can lead to a lot of other issues. This effect, wondering whether I'm valuable, it can lead to the issue of isolation. And we'll look at that in more depth in a few days, inshallah. The issue of isolation is one type of the issue of isolation, one type of this feeling of loneliness, of isolation. It's where I feel like things that I do don't affect other people. Things that other people do don't affect me. So I have nothing to do with other people. I have nothing to do with the world around me. I'm living my life, getting on with myself, and it doesn't have any effects around me. What this can be known to lead to is this clinical isolation, this clinical loneliness. How? When we start to feel that I have nothing to do with the people around me, things I do don't impact them. What it can lead to is me feeling like it doesn't matter whether I'm close to them or not. It doesn't matter whether I'm far from them or not. It doesn't matter. When we look at these kind of things, when we think that it doesn't matter how close I am to other people, because I don't bring anything to their life, because I'm not connected to their life, this can lead us down a dangerous spiral. And we'll look at that when we look at isolation. We don't have a lot of time. We don't have much, and we have a lot to cover. This is one of the big impacts, one of the big things that come about from low self-esteem, or that can come about from low self-esteem, is this feeling that we're not valuable. Another thing, our humour, the way we make jokes. It's been seen in studies, in research, that the humour that we use, the way we make jokes is affected by our self-esteem. People with high self-esteem, people with good self-esteem, are often known to make jokes which encourage themselves, which show their value. Of course, we all like to poke fun at ourselves every now and again. We all make a joke which, pokes a bit of fun at ourselves. But at the same time, when that becomes a regular thing, when we make it a norm, when we make it normal for other people to laugh at our expense, to laugh at me and not with me, this is one of the things that can come about from low self-esteem. According to research, according to studies, people who have low self-esteem generally, their humour is what we call self-deprecating, where they make themselves feel bad within their own humour. They make fun of themselves. Why? Because when everybody else laughs, it gives them that feeling of goodness. It makes them feel like, I made everybody else laugh, even if it was at my own expense. Now this here again, it's looking at approval from other people, what other people think about, what other people see as. We have to look at this kind of humour and understand that there's limits to everything. In Islam, we're told to keep in moderation with everything. Everything we do should be down the middle. It shouldn't be extreme on one side, it shouldn't be extreme on the other. Islam gives a lot of importance to moderation. And in the same way, with this kind of humour and with our jokes, we have to remember, sure, we can make fun of ourselves every now and again, but when it becomes something that our sense of humour is damaging to ourselves, or we're constantly making fun of ourselves, it does have an effect on us, on how we see ourselves, how we view ourselves. Recite aloud, salawat ala Muhammad wa I'd wish to cover a bit more, but we're running out of time. And yeah, I can see a few of you looking. I don't actually have a watch. I never have. I look at my wrist regardless. It really helps me. We don't have a lot of time. We have a lot to cover. Inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow. And we'll get on to the actual solution, what we can do to help our self-esteem. And again, for each and every person, it's different. But there's some things which have been proven to help the majority of people, or a large number of people have said has helped them. And we'll also look at the Islamic perspective. We said we're looking at how Islam takes care of us. We'll look at that as well. But one small and rather unknown thing that I'll mention. One thing that impacts our self-esteem. And it's something that we don't really think about. It's clutter. The things around us. If you have a messy desk, messy room, things like that. I know the parents will be happy that I'm saying this, but it's an important thing to know. It's very little known. A lot of people don't know this. But your clutter and the things around you, whether your room's clean or dirty, has also been found to have an effect on how we view ourselves. Why? When we look at our room, for instance, if I see my desk, if I see loads of open books, loads of papers, loads of mess, psychologically, it's been found that that gives me a thought that I've got all these unfinished projects. All these things that I started to do and I didn't finish, or I haven't finished yet. All these things that I'm working on, but I'm not getting to the end. I'm nearly there, but I haven't quite reached it. And when we see this come a repeating pattern, when we keep thinking, I'm nearly to that point, but I haven't reached it yet. I'm doing something, but I haven't finished it yet. When this becomes a repetitive pattern, when it keeps happening, then it's been found to instill a thought that the question arises, why? Why am I not completing my work? Why am I not getting on with things? Why am I not finishing what I'm trying to do? And again, a lot of people find the answer within their self-worth. I'm not good enough, I can't do it, that work's too hard. It's homework, I can't do it, I'm not good enough. This little thing, clutter, just cleaning up within your room, your office, whatever it may be, your desk. I remember my desk at work used to be covered in pages, charts, spreadsheets, all sorts of things. When I cleared it up, my boss thought I'd done a lot of work because he saw all the open projects had been finished, or at least tidied away. But the really important thing, I came in one morning, and I said to myself, I need to get through this. I need to just finish this off, just clear the work. Even if I didn't actually finish the projects that were ongoing, I didn't finish all the projects that were there, I organised it, I tidied it. At the end of it, I didn't have that feeling that I've got all these unfinished things to do. I've got all this work that I still have to do. And B, I looked at it as an achievement. This is what I wanted to do today, I've achieved it. And for every little achievement that we get through, every little success that we have, that for us is a chance to improve our self-worth, to see the value within me, to see what I'm doing, what I might be doing right. At this point, I'll finish it here. We have a lot more to cover. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll cover the rest of what we have. From tomorrow, we begin the nights of the Banu Hashim, the family of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So today, I want to remember two shuhada. One, for a lot of you will have heard, and one, for a lot of you may not have heard. The first was the childhood friend of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, was Habib ibn Razak. A lot of people often don't realize how important Hazrat Habib ibn Razak was. A lot of people often forget what a great man he was. You see, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, all through his journey from Medina to Karbala, he kept telling his companions, he kept telling them, go, save your lives. On the night of Muharram, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he gathers all his companions in a tent. He says to them, go, save your lives. He says to them, it is my blood that Yazid's army won. It is my blood that the soldiers want, not yours. Go, save your lives. On the day of Ashura, at the time of Asr, Imam Hussein alayhi salam 3 times calls out, Hal min nasirin yansurna. The second time he calls out, an army of angels and jinns flood the battlefield of Karbala. They descend upon Karbala. Imam Hussein turns around to them and what does he say? He says, go, I do not want your help. I'm simply giving the army of Yazid a chance to change their destiny. Go, I do not want your help. All throughout his journey, right up until the moment where Imam Hussein goes into the battlefield himself, he is sending people away. He keeps telling those around him, go, save yourself. But Hazrat Habib ibn Razak is that one person who Imam Hussein alayhi salam called for help, who Imam Hussein alayhi salam wrote a letter to and called him to himself. I must ask, oh Mawla, if you sent everybody away, if you kept insisting to your companions to leave, why did you call your friend? Why did you call Hazrat Habib ibn Mazahir? If we look at the tradition, if we look at the narration, it wasn't initially Imam Hussein alayhi salam who remembered Habib ibn Mazahir. It wasn't initially Imam Hussein alayhi salam who thought to call upon his childhood friend. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is standing in the tent of Sayyidah Zainab Ulya Khatim. Sayyidah Zainab says to her brother, she says, is there no one who can help you? Is there no one in the whole world who can come to save you, who can come to your aid? Imam Hussein looks at his sister, and it is written in the narrations, Imam Hussein says, Zainab, you remember our grandfather? Was there anybody to lift his janazah? You remember our father Ali? Was there anybody to support his claim to Khilafah? You remember my brother Hassan? Was there anybody to stop him or to take him from being buried next to Rasulullah? Zainab, I am alone. There is nobody here to help me. Sayyidina Zainab says, no. Hussein, there is one person who I am thinking of. One person who, if you call him, there is no chance he will decline your offer for help. Imam Hussein says, Zainab, who are you talking of? Who are you thinking of? Hussein, that very friend who you grew up with, Hazrat Habib ibn Mazahir. Imam Hussein writes a letter to Hazrat Habib. Here, in this letter, you can see, just by the very first line, the way Imam Hussein addresses Hazrat Habib, what a great man he was, what an important man he was. How does Imam Hussein address Habib? If you look at the very first line of the letter, it is written, Min Hussein ibn Abi Talib ila al-Rajul al-Faqih, Habib ibn Mazahir. From Hussein, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, to a man who understands his religion, Habib ibn Mazahir. For Imam Hussein to say this to somebody is a great status. For Imam Hussein to say this to somebody shows they truly do understand the religion. They truly do understand. They truly do have great knowledge. It's written in the narrations that Hazrat Habib ibn Mazahir was sitting with his wife and they were eating lunch at the time where the messenger of Imam Hussein arrived. They're sitting and eating lunch when Hazrat Habib has a knock at the door. He hears this knock at the door, he goes to open the door. He asks, who is it? The reply comes, I'm the messenger of Hussein. As Habib, he's excited, he is happy. He feels joy run within his blood. He's hearing from his childhood friend. He opens the letter, he sees it, and that joy very quickly turns to tears. That joy very quickly turns to sadness. As Habib ibn Mazahir's wife is still waiting for him. They were eating lunch. She calls out to him, she asks him, Habib, who has this letter come from? Who has knocked on our door? He replies, It is my friend Hussein. He says, it is our Mawla Hussein. What does he want? Why has he called upon you at this time? What does the letter say? So Habib ibn Zahir, he reads the letter. In the letter, Mawla Hussein writes, Habib, your friend Hussein is alone. I am surrounded by the armies of Yazid and I have no one left to help me. Habib, I am asking you to come to my aid. Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir lives in Kufa at the time. Kufa is dangerous. Nobody can be trusted. Hazrat Habib wishes to test his wife. His wife asks him, so what are you waiting for? What will you do? Hazrat Habib wishes to test his wife. He says, I'm thinking whether I should go or whether I should not. At one point, his wife, she becomes angry. She says to him, Habib, this is not the man I married. Habib, this is not the man I fell in love with. A man who the grandson of Rasulullah calls and does not immediately go to his aid. Hazrat Habib, he says to his wife, I only wish to see what your reaction would be. I only wish to see whether you were ready to live a life without your husband. For you understand, if I go now, I will not return. She says, I understand. You go. You pack your things. Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir packs all his things. He says to his servant to take his horse and wait at the entrance of Kufa. At the time, Kufa was dangerous. There were soldiers roaming the streets. If Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir was seen leaving Kufa with his horse, he may have been stopped. He may have been attacked. He sends his servant. As he's gathering his things and as he's walking through the streets of Kufa, he has to be careful. He has to stop and wait for soldiers to pass so that he may walk free. As this happens, his servant is standing at the gates of Kufa with his horse. They are waiting for Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir. At this point, the narration says, when Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir arrives at the horse, it had been a little longer than he said he would take. It had taken him longer than expected. He says, as he arrives near his horse and near his servant, he hears his servant whispering to the horse, saying, do not worry. If my master does not come, then we will go to Karbala. We will protect our Mawla Hussein. Hazrat Habib, when he hears this, he starts crying and he starts weeping. He looks towards Karbala and he cries out, oh Hussein, is this the time that has come upon you? That the servants and the animals will come to help you and nobody else will? Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir, he says to his servant, you may go, I'm relieving you of your duties. His servant looks at him and says, now, when you go towards Shahada, this is when you are leaving me? This is when you will send me away? Let me come with you. Let me travel with you. Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir gives him permission. He says to him, okay, you may come with me. We will go to Karbala together. They ride towards Karbala. As Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir approaches the tent of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the people in the tent of Imam Hussein, they come to greet Habib ibn Zahir. First, Hazrat Abbas comes. He brings Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir to Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein greets him. The men, they sit together. They talk. At one point, Sayyidah Zainab hears them talking. She asks Bibi Fizza, whose voice is this? This is a voice that I have not heard in a long time, but I remember it. Whose voice is this? Bibi Fizza says, this is the voice of Habib ibn Mazahir, Hazrat Imam Hussein's childhood friend. Bibi Zainab then says to Bibi Fizza, send my salams to Habib. Have someone tell Habib that the daughter of Ali sends her salams. When Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir hears this, he starts crying and weeping. He starts wailing. He says, what a time has come on the family of the Ahlul Bayt. What time has come on the family of Hussein that the daughter of Ali is saying salam to someone like me. That the daughter of Ali is thanking someone like me to come to Hussein's aid. The time comes, Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir wishes to give his life. According to one narration, it was the time of Zohar. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he stood up to read Zohar. At this point, it is said he sent a soldier towards the army of Yazid to say to them, stop the battle. Stop the battle so that we can pray our namaz. At this point, the reply from the army of Yazid come, will your namaz be accepted, Hussein? Are your namaz worthy of acceptance? Habib ibn Zahir, according to one narrations, he hears this, he mounts his horse, he becomes angry, he becomes fierce, he rides out into the battlefield crying, you think the son of Ali, you think the grandson of Rasulullah will pray namaz and it will not be accepted, while you mal'oon, while you who drink alcohol, while you who dance and listen to music through the night, your namaz will be accepted? He goes, he attacks the people. They say Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir, he went into the battlefield. He sent many of Yazid's soldiers to help. They say one, Hasin ibn Amir, the very same man who struck Hazrat Ali Akbar. They say he was waiting for Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir. They say he rides up behind him and strikes him from behind. As Hazrat Habib ibn Zahir falls from his horse, he cries out, Adrikni, Adrikni, ya Abu Abdullah. They say that as he falls from his horse, he calls out to Mawla Hussein. Mawla Hussein rides out to his childhood friend, but by the time he reaches, it is said Hazrat Habib ibn Mazahir has already left this world. It is said that he has already taken his last breaths. Before we finish today's Masai, I wish to remember one last shaheed. One last shaheed before tomorrow we move on to the family of Yaqub Bey. This shaheed we rarely hear about. A shaheed we do not often get told about. But it's at the same time, as Imam Hussein alayhi salam stands for Zohar, he's been told he will not be given permission to recite Zohar. The arrows will still come, the spears will still be thrown. This soldier comes to Imam Hussein, he says, Ya Abu Abdullah, he says, Ya Mawla, I'm old. His name is Sa'id ibn Jubair. He says, I'm old, I do not have the strength to carry a sword, to carry a spear, I do not have the strength to go out into the battlefield. But allow me to give my life for your salah, for your namaz. Look at the importance of our namaz. Look at the importance of our prayer. Sa'id ibn Jubair, he gives his life for this namaz. He says to Imam Hussein, let me give my life for your namaz. As you pray namaz, let me stand in front of you. Let me stand in front of you and take every arrow, take every hit that comes for you. Imam Hussein gives him permission. Imam Hussein alayhi salam starts his namaz here. There the arrows are falling. Sa'id is standing in front of Imam Hussein. He moves left and right to take all the arrows that come towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam. One dua is heard. One prayer that he makes to Allah Azza wa Jal while he's defending Imam Hussein. It is said that while he was taking these arrows, he felt himself about to fall. At this point, he looks up towards the sky, he looks up towards the heavens and calls out, Ya Allah, keep me alive just so long that Hussein can finish his namaz. Keep me alive just so long that Hussein can finish his salah. He stays alive, he stays standing. Here Imam Hussein, he says his final salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Here Sa'id falls to the ground. Mawla Hussein takes Sa'id in his arms. Sa'id's head is in Imam Hussein's lap. Sa'id looks up at Imam Hussein. He's taking his last few breaths. He looks at him and he says, Mawla, I can feel somebody is coming towards me. I can feel that from the right-hand side somebody is approaching me. Mawla Hussein looks at him, he says, Sa'id, look at how blessed you are. My grandfather Rasulullah has come to take you to heaven. He says, Mawla, I can feel somebody from my left side is approaching me. He says, Sa'id, remember to say salam. My father Ali is coming to take you into heaven. He says, Mawla, from behind you, coming towards my head, I can feel somebody coming. He says, Sa'id, look, my brother Hassan has come to take you. Then Sa'id says, Mawla, I can feel somebody coming towards me from in front of me, coming towards my feet. At this point in the narrations it is written, Imam Hussein takes the head of Sa'id, he puts it on the ground. He says, Sa'id, quickly, fold your feet. Sayyida Zahra is coming to take you to heaven. Sayyida Zahra has come to take you to the next world. It is said Sa'id, before he passes away, he looks at Imam Hussein, he says, Mawla, has my sacrifice been accepted? Imam Hussein looks at him, he says, Sa'id, Wallah, before I walk into heaven, I will have you walk in front of me, Sa'id. I will have you lead the way into heaven. ألا لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين فسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. As always, before we make our way upstairs, I'd like to ask the brothers to stay seated 5 minutes while the sisters make their way, and then inshallah we'll also go upstairs and take part in the Azadari of Mawla Hussein. Fatiha ma'a salawat.